Welcome back to the Pro Football Pod. It's the boys, Coach, Hulk, and Austin, bringing you another week, another recap, another bit of news. In good news, this is now week 7 onward. There are no undefeated teams. So the 72 Dolphins lit a couple more cigars up this weekend in celebration. What do you guys think about that?
It's nice, but even as a Dolphins fan, it's one of those to where it's just like, I wish we could hang our hat on something other than, something that took place 50 years ago. That'd be
Have
great.
been D2, bro. The fact that all those guys are still alive and they smoke a cigar every year in celebration.
Most of them are.
Well, true. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but that there are still some of them that are alive. I mean, their coach is, just recently RIP. So
You think they're putting in like major bets for those teams to be losing because they're just waiting for those opportunities?
I mean,
they have the
there's
money to
always a
play with, too.
preseason bet for like team to be the last one undefeated, or is a team to go undefeated, yes or no, and it's always heavily favored no because it just doesn't happen.
exactly, it's impossible. We knew that it was not going to happen.
The
We
day
talked.
and age.
We said last week we don't know what team's going to be able to beat the 49ers from here on out, but we know that they're going to lose at least one before the Super Bowl. I didn't think it'd be the Browns with PJ Walker. I think I was pretty heavily.
Someone did. This guy over here, bro.
You didn't say they were going to necessarily.
That's funny
did.
because
We were
Okay.
all the
about
bets,
it.
all your bets I saw
Nah,
had the 49ers winning.
and
I mean, that's
we
weird.
got crapped by a field goal, but like, damn, it was not good to see Brock Purdy not doing anything out there without any of his weapons. Like we talk highly on him, so
I think that's
he
a
didn't
good
do anything.
point
what
to
it's-
talk about. Sorry.
For what it's worth, though, I mean, yeah, he played an awful game by any measure, like by any standard for what you've seen out of him. Terrible. His first loss as a starting quarterback for the Niners. But that final drive, when the plays needed to be made to get them down there to at least give them a chance to win it, he did what he had to.
That was
So
a small glimpse of hope.
to me, it's even the same thing for the Eagles because I know we'll touch on that too. It's one of those to where like you'd rather that like humble pie get served to you now than later in the season to like knock you off track when you're going into the playoffs.
Great
Go
point.
ahead, regroup, figure out what happened, and move forward from it. It's only week 6.
I think that in the same light, if the Dolphins would have actually lost to the Panthers after going down 14, the Panthers aren't a team that anybody should be losing to. The Browns have a great defense. Everyone knows they're the best.
So good.
The best defense in the last 50 years through the first 6 games. That's how good they are, Austin. Yes.
You think they're better than the 49er defense?
Right now, statistically, they are the best defense through the first 6 games in the last 50 years. In points per game, yards, they're first in every major stat whenever it comes to those things. So, yes, I think that they are better right now. Now, look at who they played a little bit. That there's some things to be said. We'll see how it looks on the long end of the season. But so far, they are historically good.
Brock would have impressed me if he would have came out and did his thing like he's been doing even without the weapons being there. Like he had Christian McCaffrey for the first half of the game. So like I feel the defense was there, but like nobody expected the 49ers to get shut down like that.
Now, they lost Deebo.
I feel like it's just a little bit of a realization.
Now, fantasy
like
wise,
Brock
the
isn't
Browns
the GOAT.
are number 1 versus quarterbacks, wide receivers, and I believe they're like top 3 versus running backs. Like fantasy wise, you get no value playing any people against them right now.
No,
Like they're
it's tough.
elite right
Yes.
now. It's insane.
So that's a good question to lead into because of how we felt before the season was what do you guys think is the best division in football right now? Because I was
great
at the beginning of the season I said the Browns division with the Ravens and
The
Steelers
AFC
and
North.
I mean, that's not a bad call
it-
for it
it
because all
prob-
4 teams
like-
are competing.
Yeah, it probably
But,
is
like,
the AFC North right now.
there's 4
Because there's
competitive
no clear
teams in
cut
there,
winner
but
of the division right now. Like you
Yeah,
wanna
it's
say
a
the
it's a
Ravens-
dogfight. No
But
pun
the
intended.
Bengals are starting to pick it up. Like, yeah. So I mean, I'd probably would go that. It's the most competitive.
Not that AFC East anymore, huh?
I mean, they lost the quarterback for the third best team. We knew that the Patriots were going to be ass. The fact that the Jets, the Dolphins, and the Bills are going to be like the top 4 in the AFC was why we said the AFC East. And then they lost Aaron Rodgers week 1, still beat Philly. So they showed that their defense, I mean, it's the same exact thing as Cleveland. Their defense is absolutely elite, like unbelievably elite. They also haven't been hit by this massive injury bug that a lot of these other teams have. Like they've lost a couple receivers for the Baltimore, but they still have all their major pieces. Like everybody's major pieces are still intact. I think that's why we're seeing a lot of success, except for Deshaun Watson. And obviously they don't need him. I mean, he's the most overpaid guy in the league.
Just beat the best team in the league with PJ Walker.
There we go. I mean, hands down, still the best team in the league is the 49ers. They're the most balanced on offense and defense. Their defense is their strong point compared to the Dolphins being their offense, but still the most balanced team by far.
I was almost leaning towards like the Rams division with the Cardinals, the 49ers.
Cardinals are being competitive,
and
but
Seahawks, right, too?
Seahawks are like really underwhelming me right now. Geno Smith is like the 26th best quarterback in football, and he's had no matchups that were like in the top 10 hardest matchups for quarterbacks. Like none of them. And he's going to have a couple of those throughout the season. He had only 1 or 2 good matchups, and he did really good in those. But the fact that he's like so up and down is a little bit scary to me. Now, Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, Trevor Lawrence, Jimmy Garoppolo all got hurt this weekend. That's like 2 or 3 fantasy quarterbacks for sure. Trevor Lawrence is a knee we don't know a lot about, and Justin Fields dislocated his right thumb. Jimmy Garoppolo is a back injury. So Tannehill apparently it was the same ankle from last year. What was your question?
Did you see Trevor Lawrence's injury? Like, do you know how it happened?
No, I didn't see it, and that's a game that I'm gonna rewatch this week because I want to.
It was like off a sack.
I'm trying to see what happened with Ridley. Ridley really had an underwhelming week, and I want to see if that was because of the injury or if he's someone that's worth trying to trade and get something for.
Him or ETN. I mean, that dude's been crushing it. So, like, if you want to be able to get rid of him or keep him, I don't know. But, like, depending on this injury, this could hurt the team big and a lot of those pieces.
So it's Desmond Ridder season now. I mean, he's probably the most points per game of all the quarterbacks that are absolutely on waivers. Is that who we go out and jump on?
I told you last week that if you need a guy, like he's a guy who can get you points if you're desperate. Like he's got that pop.
I think he was top 10 before the 8 o'clock game.
Just because the team he's working with, he's got enough athletes. Yeah, you shouldn't have to be that desperate, but
I mean, 300 yards and 2
injury
touchdowns.
bug's real out here.
If you have Justin Fields, you might be that desperate.
Justin Fields, that's like a good pivot move. And if you got because like me, I have Anthony Richardson and Justin Fields, so now I'm doomed.
Oh my goodness.
That's what you get for not getting a pocket passer.
He's a good. He's a Christmas present. Like,
oh man,
wrap this thing and see what it is.
So it is Desmond Ridder season for you.
It's gonna be for some people. That's what I mean. Like, who else do you guys have though? Is there another guy that's definitely available that's sneaky good? Like Zach Wilson, nobody wants a part of that. Mac Jones, nobody wants a part of that. Like Malik Willis, are you guys gonna go out and pick up Malik Willis after that outing?
I mean,
or Will Levis?
A sneaky one.
I've said it a couple times. The guy that played Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell. Like, yeah, he put up 151 yards, but he also gave you 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, which means you didn't lose any points.
He's been solid.
He's a good good floor, right? Like, that's why we like Sam Howell. It's not that he's going to get you 30 in a week. It's that he's probably going to get you 12 to 15.
Sam Howell is the poor man's Brock Purdy right now as far as fantasy standards.
There you go. And Brock Purdy didn't get hurt, but he might as well have whenever he loses the number 1 running back in football and his backup. Deebo Samuels would have absolutely taken over the running game capabilities if Christian McCaffrey was out and he was still in. So losing both of them, they just lost their two best running backs. Now, what do you guys think about Jordan Mason or Elijah Mitchell? Like, which way are we leaning?
Well, we know what Elijah Mitchell can bring. I think he definitely should be the starter there. I think Jordan Mason has brought some electricity. Like we do expect that out of these 49ers backfield. So like any which way you go with these running backs, you can be fine. But I do like Mitchell as the starter. Just in my opinion,
as far as
we'll see what
picking
they
guys
rock
up, honestly, I think I'd rather Jordan Mason just because in the games I have watched of the Niners, when McCaffrey sits or, he's wanting a breather, Mason is the guy that comes in
with.
and
Yeah,
he
I
just
like the
runs
Mason.
he runs so angry.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's one of those, he one cut and he's putting his head into your chest. And I
So
mean,
he's going to
I
take these
just
opportunities.
I love his running style. And like you said, you know what you're getting out of Elijah Mitchell. But I don't know what the situation there is with him as to why Jordan Mason's getting more of the relieving role than he is.
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
would lean Mason, and
Yeah.
I think he's probably going to be one of the more like popular waiver wire picks this week.
Mm-hmm. Especially this week.
Now,
Easy pickup.
we found more news out about Deshaun Watson's shoulder injury. Apparently, he has a rotator cuff contusion, and he is incapable of pushing the ball down the field with any type of velocity, which basically means he can't throw the ball. So, whenever they originally said he was medically cleared to play, they mean that like if he throws the ball, he's not going to hurt himself, but he's not capable of playing. That's why he's not starting. So, you know, Amari Cooper actually was serviceable last week, and that's not why we said to sit him. We said to sit him because of the potential of what he was going to be able to do. The potential for him to put up a goose egg against the best defense in football before last week happened. That's what his potential was, and it wasn't worth betting on him getting 6 catches for like 70 or 80 yards.
He
That's
finished with 4 catches for 108 yards, but one went for 58. So if you
that's
take that away, it's 3 catches for 50 yards.
And that's
that's
horrible.
because you doubt my boy PJ Walker and
Well,
his ability
for
to give
good-
the
for
ball
good
to one of the
reason.
best receivers in football, and he showed he is a top 5
Amari
receiver.
Cooper is still one of the
Now,
best receivers in
let's-
football.
While
Did you
he
watch that
did win
game?
the game, let's pump the brakes on like PJ Walker being a guy to add. 192 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, yes, he did go up against the Niners, and that defense made Dak
He looked
Prescott
better than Dak Prescott.
look like
yeah.
a rookie. But PJ Walker is also a guy where we've seen enough of him to know that like it's not really ever going to give you anything amazing. He's
It's not going to get any
plays.
better than
He's
that.
the Taylor Heineke type. Like
I
he's
think
excited. He's
lesser.
almost excited. It was a tough defense he went up against. Like
Yeah.
he did some exciting things with Amari Cooper.
That's what we're trying to say, though,
he has
is
some
that
weapons to work with.
you don't want to start thinking like, oh, well, it was against San Fran.
Remember-
That's why he
Remember,
looked
he also
bad.
doesn't have his starting running back either. Like he was already out, Chubb.
Yeah.
Luckily, he had Kareem Hunt
I mean-
in there to pop off for him.
That was just
I
one
feel
play,
you.
and honestly, Jerome Ford was why they won that game. In that last drive, Jerome Ford had like 6 yards at a time, 7 yards at a time. He got an 8-yarder, and then he got him there. So Kareem Hunt only touched the ball a couple of times. Don't look at his point total and think that he's fantasy relevant. He does not get enough of a target share, and they finally started to utilize Jerome Ford more at the end of the game.
Well, Jerome
So-
did get 17 carries, and I do agree. At the end of the game, he's the guy that was in, and he was peeling off chunks. But Kareem did finish with 12 carries for 47 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions for 24 yards. So PPR-wise, Kareem Hunt gave you a serviceable game. Even take away the touchdown, he still would have gave you 9 points. Which flex status at this point in the season,
True.
you're going to be okay with that.
I just don't want you to be too invested into fool's gold. Kareem Hunt isn't enough of this. They like Jerome Ford. They didn't want to bring Kareem Hunt back because of Jerome Ford. He's still going to remain the number one.
So I got a little trade option for you that I received. It's Jordan Addison and Jonathan Taylor for Cortland Sutton and Jerome Ford. What do you think about that trade?
What do you think about that, Justin?
Because that was sent to me.
Who would you be trading away?
I would be trading away Jonathan Taylor and Jordan Addison and receiving Cortland Sutton and Jerome Ford.
Who sent that to you?
This guy that's in our Discord and our Pro Football Pod coach over here.
No, I
Coach.
did. I
Coach
sent.
sent
I was
me
just
that.
sending out some fishing trades. I canceled it whenever I
you-
saw who it was actually sent to. But it's
son
funny
of a
that you even
gun,
see
dude.
it still.
I can't believe you're even fishing for stuff like
That
that. You're
is-
just
Yeah.
disrespect.
That's one
I
of
mean,
those,
Jordan
I
Edison
looked
had a
at
bad
it,
game.
That's one of those trade offers. Like, I don't even roll my eyes and like laugh. I get irritated by that.
Yeah, that one
It's
pissed
trying to
off
start a
little.
conversation,
Like,
and I
oh,
canceled
thought I
it.
was
I
getting
don't
a trade coming in, and
know
it's
why
like,
you're
oh,
bringing
you're
it
not
up.
serious about anything. Get out of here.
So
We'll be right back.
we'll be right back. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
matchup? Sorry
Anything
to throw
else?
you off, coach.
To great ad, just like so much great ad. Yeah. So that's all the injuries, right? You guys got anybody streamers or anybody to talk about?
Well,
Streamers to add for the waiver. What are you talking about?
I think we talked about it last week a little bit. I think Savon Ahmed is still a sneaky streamer right now while Achan is out.
He got that
came in and
touchdown
did his
end of the
thing.
He got
game.
the touchdown at the end of the game. Now, granted, the game was, in hand and ready to pull away, but
He still was
regardless,
touching the
he got
ball
you stick.
a decent clip. I mean,
And he
only
looks
like a 20 or
effective when he
30%.
has the ball in his hands.
I
Like,
mean,
that's
every
my
running
thing.
back for the Dolphins looks effective with the ball in his hands right now. It's
Yeah.
that's where I still think that Savon Ahmed that was his last game. Jeff Wilson is definitely above him on the depth chart. I've already picked up Jeff Wilson in a league or two, even though he's still on IR, because he's within that 21-day practice window. He's able to just jump on the roster whenever they say that he's good to go. So I think that they're going to say that this week, and I think that he's going to start potentially this week. We'll
Is
see
this
though.
week 2 for Achan on the
IR.
IR?
The
Or is this
word
week
is
1?
week 11 is whenever he's going to be back.
Week
11. That's the
So
word.
he's like,
it's
he'll
minimum
be a
4 weeks, but then we've got a bye right after he can come off, so he'll have to wait an extra week.
I mean, that's
So
not
I think
too
they
far. That's
projected the
like
Raiders
5
game
weeks,
is the next game
but
he'll be back for.
yeah. It's just running back's tight right now, Real tight out there.
Now, you did bring up Jordan Addison, though. With Justin Jefferson being out, I feel like you should have expected more of an output from him. He got as many targets as KJ Osborne, which, shout out, we said that on the Friday's episode that KJ was a guy to pick up.
Yep.
But KJ 4 receptions, 48 yards to Addison's 3 for 28. He saved you with the touchdown. And that just shows that Kirk does trust him in the red zone. But, I mean, Coach, you called it last week, too. The biggest benefactors, TJ Hawkinson, and everybody else is just going to kind of fall in where they're open.
I think we
if
saw
it was-
TJ Hawkinson's floor this week as well. He only put up like 9.5 and 0.5 PPR leagues, which for tight ends, I mean, you're ecstatic about at this point in the season. But that's his floor. I think next week, whenever he gets 1 or 2 touchdowns, he's going to have 100-yard weeks. Like, he's going to get 10-catch weeks. He's going to be able to do a lot for you. I mean, he's a great person to trade for. I think that, I don't know if we brought it up last week. In my dynasty, traded him away. I have Sam Laporta. So right now his value is at an all-time high. So I traded him for Mark Andrews and Kyren Williams, and I gave away a 3rd-round pick next year as well. So Mark Andrews is not as good as TJ Hawkinson right now, but he's at least serviceable. He's going to be able to be fine. He's also dealing with being the number 1 target on his team. And Kyren Williams is the number 3 running back in football. He is dealing with an ankle injury this past weekend. He sat out like the end of the game, but Sean McVay's already said that he's probably fine, that they're going to watch it and like make sure. So I wouldn't be too worried
the
about it.
Rams being back. Like last year was pretty pathetic and depressing for them, especially coming off a Super Bowl run. Like
Super Bowl.
so, like
Yeah,
Hangover,
Stafford
man.
and Cup, though, only played both like half the season or less.
Yeah.
yeah, no, it was just a sad, depressing year, for that team in
Yeah.
general, and the key players leaving and wanting to get out of there. Like, but it's nice to see what they're doing now.
So now speaking of the Rams though with Puka, do you think this one was just a, flash in the pan random game to where, just Cup happened to be the more effective guy on the day? Because Cup's thing too, yeah, he got 7 receptions to Puka's 4, but Cup after the catch is much more effective, and that's where you saw the difference in him and Puka as far as what Cup is able to do after the fact of catching the ball.
You wouldn't even be bringing this up if Puka would have came down with the ball in the end zone.
Agreed.
Just because didn't like.
True.
Agreed.
It's the same thing for Jordan Addison though.
Yep.
Like sometimes these players just don't get targeted as much. It just happens.
He still got 30. He still got 33% of the team's total targets, including rushes. So I'm not at all concerned, because if he would have done something more with all those targets, we wouldn't be talking about it. Target share it's what we look at. What they do week by week is based off of their talent, but the amount that they get targeted is all that we can really rely on. I'm not too afraid of Puka because he dropped that touchdown, because he still got all the targets that he got. Cooper Kupp is he's one of the best receivers in football. Like, this is what he's going to look like. Keenan Allen making plays like that, one of the best receivers in football. Like, that's what those guys are. Puka's a rookie, so I'm not too afraid of it because they still trust him to give him the ball a bunch. And look at how many times they ran it in the second half. Like, he was getting 7.9 yards a carry with Kyren.
I mean, how long can Kyren go for? That's a big question. This is his first year seeing this guy run the ball. So
he's a rookie. He's young.
Well, the thing to monitor too is the backup Ronnie Rivers. Now, it's not like he was super effective in the game. However,
but
he
with
is
where
also
fantasy's at,
monitoring an injury.
Well, he's potentially out for like the next 2 weeks, guaranteed. So now we've got to look at whoever that third running back is, and that guy. That's
deep in the chart.
That's a guy, but that's a guy to look at. It's the Rams system.
In this offense, in the system. It's kind of like the Seahawks system. Like,
exactly.
On the goal line, the guy's going to punch it in.
Speaking of which, Kenneth Walker watch is still going. He's still healthy and just running hard as hell. I think that's what it is. As I was watching him this week, that's why I'm just so ready for him to get hurt. It's because of how violently he runs the ball. Up. Like, he just throws his body into people so heavily. I love it. I love watching it. I love watching him play. But that's why I evaluate him as he's going to get hurt. Kenneth Runner.
For Texas Ranger.
Dalton Schultz. I want to talk about him for just a second. We talked about him last week, and he had a great week this week. 16 fantasy points in 0.5 PPRs. He got a touchdown. He got like 8 or 10 targets. This is a guy, 7, thank you, that is someone we've been talking about all season, because he plays for a team with a rookie quarterback, and he's going to be a good option. Look at what he did in Dallas for all those years. So I'm really heavily moving towards Dalton Schultz. I'm even to the point of potentially trading some of my tight end value, like TJ Hawkinson and Mark Andrews, for other pieces, and then just going with Dalton Schultz instead. Like,
if you can get that, I like that.
I mean,
because he was a waiver wire pickup last week. Like, he was on every single waiver wire.
Rookie quarterbacks and their tight ends.
They love him.
Hayden Hurst has been really, really underwhelming on that same clip.
Yes,
but I think,
and that's the thing with I tried to express it to you guys with this Mr. Young, Bryce Young coming in. He's a small quarterback, bro. He's gonna have a tough time in the league.
Austin, I love you. You're just a fucking sizist. So let's get some real news out there. Frank Reich is stepped down from play calling duties for the Carolina Panthers. So we should see a little bit of difference. Now, is that going to mean that Thielen doesn't get 13 targets a game and he gets brought down to what a slot receiver normally gets in targets, so that they're capable of winning the game by stretching the field more on the outside and getting these young guys work so that they'll develop and be better? Maybe. I don't know what it is.
Now, so their
know
offensive
what it
coordinator or quarterbacks coach is Josh McCown, correct?
Okay.
And so Josh McCown was the backup for Kurt Warner during the Super Bowl run with the Cardinals.
Okay.
Their slot receiver at the time was veteran Larry Fitzgerald. Bigger body, similar skill set as Thielen.
Okay.
That's where I see that playing in as to why Thielen has moved to the slot, because they're able to see his savviness and his kind of that
He
Kelsey
loves it.
factor.
He's
of
having a great
finding
time out
open
there.
area. It's awesome. And I mean, he torched the Dolphins. 11 receptions, 115 yards, touchdown.
And that, not just us,
Most
dude.
of that work
He's
in the first
torched
half.
everybody. He's had a great week every week except for week 1. Weeks 2 through now, he's like wide receiver 5 on the year.
I know the Dolphins are terrible at run defense, but even when Miles Sanders comes back, is Chuba Hubbard roster worthy?
No.
No, only whenever
No.
he's starter.
And only whenever
just
he's against the
valuable.
Dolphins. I think
But
you
that's
try
my
to
thing.
trade him right now.
Have we seen enough out of Miles Sanders to think that he's just going to come in and just immediately just grab the full workload again? Because he wasn't really getting the full workload before.
I don't know if it's the full workload, but I think that I would rather his workload than Chuba Hubbard's because of the receiving capability. He's more of a veteran. He's capable of more. I think Chuba Hubbard is probably going to be touchdown dependent whenever Miles Sanders comes back, and Miles Sanders at least getting receptions means he doesn't have to be touchdown dependent.
Now, I feel where Justin's coming from, though, because of where we're at in fantasy right now. We got to stretch deep for these running backs. So, like, if you can roster Chuba Hubbard, I'm not mad at that.
You're literally
Especially off of
having
what-
to step over bodies to try to pick up somebody and find somebody that can.
No, I know. It's rough.
It's been a rough
Or you've
go
got
at it.
guys like Saquon Barkley who don't get announced that they're officially active up until 2 hours before game time.
Exactly. On a Monday night or Sunday night.
And he still
know?
put up 13 points in 0.5 PPR format.
I
which
sat
is,
him in all my leagues.
I sat
I
him.
had him in a
Options, but-
league where I had an open spot because I had Josh Palmer and I already had the game won. So I literally put Saquon in there just to see, hey, if he pops off, it's just going to be bonus points.
Nice.
'Cause,
And
trying to play those tiebreakers for them.
Josh Palmer likely doesn't put up 13. Jamison Williams put up 13.3, which is the player I had in the flex. So it was only 0.3 points away from being a good or bad decision, which is a great place to be. That's exactly what we want. Either one of these guys would have gotten it done for my team, but
Now,
I mean, you're talking on one of
I
my
do wanna
favorite
touch
waiver
on it
wire
right
ads,
now.
Joshua Palmer. So, we're talking about him in progress right now. So I hope.
what does he have?
does
What's he
exceed-
got right now?
I don't
Justin?
know what he has yet.
Josh Palmer right now?
Yeah.
Josh Palmer right now has let's see, receiving nothing. No
Ooh, yeah,
targets,
0.
no receptions.
Oh, and
nothing.
Justin Herbert just got a concussion, so I think he's pretty fucked.
Yeah. So let's just take.
Who is that? Who's number 1 on
that.
your
Throw
defense,
Palmer out.
Austin? Because that guy's a dickhead.
He's
Where do you
Oh,
see Herbert got a
Hurst. He
Hurst,
didn't get he didn't get a
Jerron
concussion.
Hurst.
He got hit in the
He's a
face though.
dog.
The
So-
fact that he didn't get a concussion is just sizest on the
Put
NFL.
on our biased fan hat here now. The Dolphins.
Number 1 offensive
At this
football. Yeah,
point-
what about him?
At this point, Tua, Mostert, Tyreek, Waddle, they're all must starts, obviously. Every
Absolutely.
week. Now, is there, other than Achane, because you're still holding on to him, and we mentioned Ahmed, is there anybody, though, like a Braxton Berrios or somebody on the
So,
Dolphins that you
I like
feel
that
like
you
should
brought
be
him up.
rostered in deeper leagues, just as insurance for a guy if you do have a Waddle or a Tyreek?
So I love that you brought Braxton up because his girlfriend or wife cheated on him the weekend before this one. So he was going to go out there and.
Oh,
put up
you
some
don't want to
points.
unleash single Brax on the world.
That's what I'm trying to say,
You
y'all.
don't
So
wanna
he
unleash
is
single
out
Brax
there
on the
in the
world.
streets
That might-
single. So
he-
if
that-
he's
he's
a
at
nasty
home
waiver
in-
wire,
In Miami?
At home, he will take over. He will just take over the whole state of Florida. Braxton for governor. That's what's
So-
gonna happen.
So I'll say this.
Brax.
Yes, as a simple answer to your question, yes. Picking up Braxton Berrios in a deeper 12 to 14 with maybe 3 potential starting wide receivers, like he should absolutely.
With how much these receivers get used, I mean, they're going to get
Especially
banged up. You see,
if you have
cramps
Tyreek or Waddle already. Because if Waddle does go down or Tyreek does go down, Braxton Berrios is going to get work. We know it for a fact. Chase Claypool being added to that team, Cedric Wilson being on that team, none of those are touching Braxton Berrios right now. He's touching the field and he's getting the ball on third downs. That's why I like him so much, is that Tua's specifically targeting him to make it on a first down whenever it's the most important time in the game. He's done it for us 3 or 4 times already this season that like I've seen.
Now, do we think the Dolphins and McDaniel are scheming for Tyreek to get the 2,000 yards that he desperately covets?
I think so.
Because at this point, Tyreek had over 100 yards 3 minutes into the third quarter.
They're not scheming.
And
they're not scheming.
But my thing, too, is he's just continuously open.
He's just doing what he does. 6
receptions on 10 targets, but you turn 6 receptions into 163 yards.
So
he's the most electrifying player in football by a mile.
I mean,
he would have been the number 1 pickup in fantasy on the draft boards if we knew Tua was going to be healthy the full year. 100% he would be number 1. Like,
that was why he wasn't. You're
best.
right.
And I picked him up over those guys. Like, I did it because I knew Tyreek has that capability. He was my first round
pick in 2 leagues just because of where I was drafting.
And you're so happy about that, aren't you?
Oh,
I think,
especially with what you're dealing with, you got Kirk Cousins as the other quarterback, and a hurt Joe Burrow as the other quarterback. So it was kind of like easy decision to make. It was just the only other thing was like, can Tua stay healthy? And he's been doing great at that. His offensive line has been protecting him. He's the least sacked quarterback in the league right now. So
sixth best offensive line whenever it comes to pass defense.
Which is Armstead and Connor Williams being out.
Yeah,
which is the one knock I have. It's like, okay, if someone does get to Tua, we haven't seen someone just get to him.
I mean, he's gotten sacked. He's gotten hit.
A little bit.
But that's the point.
Every other quarterback has taken a bigger beating.
The Bills game was the game he was under duress the most, and by any statistical measure, Tua himself did not have a bad game. Even like interception aside, like Tua himself did not play a bad game. So even with the pressure, and Tua has shown you last year and the season before, he's one of the top quarterbacks statistically with pressure. Now, this
like whenever he gets blitzed,
different. This season it is a little different, but I think that is because kind of what you're alluding to, Austin, is he's getting comfortable with not getting that pressure. So honestly, it's to the point to where when pressure, it's like, oh shit, somebody got through. Like, okay, let me wiggle through here real quick. But he's really good at keeping his head down the field. He's clear cut to me, like unbiased opinion, the front runner for MVP, and I think Tyreek might be second right behind him.
It's crazy. You see what Tyreek does for a team. You saw what he did for the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and now you're seeing what he does for the Dolphins. Like, you get a guy like that, he's special, bro.
It's staying in the division, going up north there. Malik Cunningham, is that a situation to monitor? As far as guys that you want to, throw that little flag on, that little alert of players to watch? Because I know Mac didn't get pulled from the game, and Malik just got activated from practice squad.
No piece. No part.
I said it on my Sunday episode a bunch that I have no desire to have any. Kendrick Bourne is probably going to be really good for somebody this season, not me. I don't want any part of that offense at all. It doesn't matter. Ramondre Stevenson, I'm stuck with on one team, and that's the only Patriot that I'll have for the rest of the year. So no, I'm not interested at all. I like good offenses. I like to get pieces from good offenses. I wanted KJ Osborne because he's on a good offense. Like,
you know what he can do.
That's what I'm looking for. So yeah, not even a little bit. Are you guys ready to talk about this Thursday night game?
What up with it? Who we got Thursday night?
Jacksonville is going to New Orleans. Thursday night football. It's a -3 for New Orleans with a 39-point over/under. That tells me that Vegas thinks that Trevor Lawrence is not playing. The only way that Jacksonville wouldn't be favored is if Trevor Lawrence isn't playing. Now, the fact that it's only 3 points right now means that the Saints offense isn't really putting up any points. So I kind of feel that too. 39-point over/under.
Olave looked nice. I mean, Kamara was getting
Rashid
stuff.
Shaheed looked
Bro,
nice, and I want to talk about that. I think
I think the
waiver
Dolphins
wire
need to get
pickup.
him on your team. He just looks like he belongs with y'all.
Every fast dude needs to just be playing with us. Hell yeah, I love it. I love it.
Rashid, definitely, he is a waiver wire target.
Absolutely.
Especially in deeper leagues.
I like him, and I like Rashid Rice for the Chiefs.
Rashid Rice is another really good one.
I just moved him up from my taxi squad this last week, and Tajay Spears might be on his way. We're still monitoring him. He's still sitting there.
I think 0.1% of the nation uses your taxi squad league. I have no clue what you're talking about.
Bro, it's the greatest thing in the world. It's basically a practice squad for your dynasty, and you can just you're only able to put rookies and first year or second year players on it. But once you move somebody from it into your roster, you can't move them back.
But you can take someone from the waiver wire and move them to.
You can add a rookie from the waiver wire and put them on the taxi squad.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But it's a way to just kind of stash, because especially in the way a non-keeper league to where you're only drafting rookies the next season. I mean, that's the best way to do it. I mean, it's an actual NFL roster. It's awesome.
So
I do agree. I think Trevor Lawrence, especially with the Thursday night factor, it doesn't make sense for him to play. They're 4-2 right now. Yeah, if you drop one on Thursday
you're the
night
best team in the
you're
division.
still getting a 10-day break. You're the best team in the division. And so for me, yeah, I personally wouldn't play him, which in turn does make it interesting as far as the Saints at home go.
So would you play any of the receivers that play for Jacksonville? Would you play Christian Kirk, Evan Engram?
Garrett? Blaine?
That might be. That sounds about right.
No, their backup is CJ Beathard.
I've never heard of this man in my life.
Oof.
He used to play for the 49ers.
What's going to happen is
ex-quarterback for the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Iowa guy? Shoot.
Iowa guy.
He's got dog in him.
So, would you guys play any of the receivers, and obviously ETN, because of there being no? Honestly, maybe even a little bit of Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby's the gamble. ETN's a sure thing. At that point, I mean, he's going to get enough looks that he's probably
hasn't been doing anything.
But if they're going to run the ball 35 times this game because they don't have their quarterback,
they're not. You forget about the Saints defense.
That's a really good
do much in this game.
That's a really good point.
Very good. ETN,
I think the Saints roll them
this week.
If Trevor's not out
but
there.
For ETN and Ridley, I hate
you're
to say
forced
you're almost forced to start them where you drafted them, but at this point in the season, that really doesn't matter to me.
It doesn't anymore. It starts going away now.
Thursday night football, you hate the matchup. If Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, honestly, I think I sit my Jaguars.
That's a good call. It's kind of what I wanted you guys to say. Evan Engram might be the only one that's startable because he's a tight end, and there's no way you have another tight end. But if there's like a Dalton Schultz, Blake Ferguson, even a Hayden Hurst, this week they have.
Now I throw it out there. In the one season that
CJ Beathard
got the most work as far as starting games and playing was back in 2020. 7 yards, 63.5% completion, 6 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Not too bad, serviceable. No. But again, against this defense, if Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, it's bold, but Etienne and Ridley, Kirk, I think they're all sittable.
I mean, it's bye week season, so you might be forced to do something. But if you're not forced, if you have an available option that just doesn't look as good as Ridley because their ceiling isn't as high, his floor is impossibly low this week. And that's what we're really trying to say. is like the floor of these guys could be zero. We don't know who's throwing them the ball. We don't know, and whenever we don't know, it's better to
It's not gonna be
gamble on things that we
zero.
do.
Like,
That's their
these guys are
floor.
football
That's what
players,
they
and
could
they're gonna
potentially
catch the
do.
ball. Like,
Maybe.
So
someone's
on the
got to be
flip
able to throw it
side,
to him. He's an
do
NFL
we like
quarterback.
our Saints players? Obviously Kamara,
Yep.
obviously Olave. But what about a Rashid Shaheed or even, Derek Carr as
Who's
far
throwing
as
the
a
ball this
streaming
week?
quarterback?
Is Derek Carr
Derek
healthy? Is he
Carr.
still good?
I didn't see
Uh,
anything happen to Derek Carr. I think
They
he's
just
fine.
pull him. They pull him for third downs and desperate situations. They still
Taysom.
put Taysom in, and
Okay.
so if you can put him at tight end, I don't know if the leagues are allowing it this year still or not.
They are, but he's got an
He's
impossibly
been
low
getting
amount of
more
points.
and more.
Yeah, but he's
So
He is the ultimate touchdown dependent guy.
yeah.
He
Oh,
can
yeah.
get you 2 to 3 in a game, but it'll happen once a season. And
Yep.
you just have to pray it's the one time you start him.
So the Jacksonville Jaguars, defensively, they've been a solid defense. Do we know what they rate against wide receivers? Because I want to say Rashid Shaheed should be started at least as a flex capability. From this point forward, I mean, he's not getting the targets, but he's just so explosive. And with Olave being there, it seems like he's really getting to benefit from having less coverage on his side. And he's making plays with it. I mean, that first touchdown to Derek Carr was on a rope directly to where it needed to be for him to just catch it in stride for an easy touchdown. Like, that's the type of play I want to see.
yeah, the dude's electric.
39 point over, it terrifies me. We know that these are two good defenses.
It's
I'd
Thursday
still go
night.
the under.
There's Thursday night games.
I'd still lean the under. This game has all the makings of finishing 17-6.
That's a good point.
If Trevor Lawrence does not play.
Yeah.
If Trevor Lawrence
Which-
doesn't play and that's announced, you could see this drop to like 37 points.
Because the Jags defense has been playing good too. Like, no knock on them. Josh Allen's been crushing it.
They've been solid. Like, it's not like they've been awful. I mean, now when you compare their yards allowed, the Jags are right now at 356 a game. The Saints are at 294. Saints are, like we said, the Saints defense is awesome. They're playing at home. So Saints in the under, if Trevor Lawrence is out, betting wise, that might be the play as well.
So did you guys how you feel about the Jets Eagles game? How you feel like that went down? That was pretty rough watch.
I think that the Jets have a very, 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 very good defense. And it gets showcased every week. I think that we keep talking about it, that they're going to keep themselves in games because that's what's crazy, man. Like, we got so lucky, Justin. We got so lucky. If they had Aaron Rodgers, it was like the first thing I remember someone saying during the Hard Knocks. One of the coaches said, guys, we're going to be in every single game this year. There is no deficit that's going to be too much for us to come back from. Like, we're going to be in every game. And he was totally right. Even with Zach Wilson, they're in games, and that's stupid. Garrett Wilson had a bit of an injury this week, and it's something to monitor to see if he's okay.
I think he came back in after.
He
the
did.
injury, so I think
But-
he's fine. And now, speaking of, though, Aaron Rodgers, there is rumors that he is potentially shooting for an end of the regular season return.
Yep.
He was
Now,
on the
it would
field
be
warming up.
astronomical if he did, just given his
Because it was an
injury and the
Achilles.
injury.
Yeah.
But if the Jets are able to at least be, in contention by the time he comes back, that to me is just as terrifying for the rest of the league. Because all you need is Aaron Rodgers and a chance in the playoffs. And with this defense and the way they're playing, I mean, we said it all preseason, and rightfully so, the Jets were a Super Bowl favorite, as far as at least a team to make it there, because you have that defense, Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson. And
Yep.
we're seeing right now, if you
Without
plugged in
one
Aaron
piece.
Rodgers on this
Yeah.
team, this team would be, it might be a hot take, but they might be 6-0 at this point right now.
Just because of how close they've been in games.
I mean,
like,
they're 3-3.
no reason they shouldn't
Like the
be.
Cowboys game would have been different. They beat the Bills. They
Different.
beat the Eagles.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
the
been
fact
rough.
that they beat those two teams, like, the Bills only have 2 losses on the season, and one of them is to the Jets.
That's a shaky team right there. I don't know what to make of them.
Now,
They're-
they did go to London. That flying over there flew back. Apparently, there was some issues with their flight back in some places they were staying. So just that's what
that
all
makes
the
sense.
excuses I'm seeing on Bill's
That
Twitter
makes
right
sense.
now as to, and I mean, rightfully
On
so.
top of that,
these are
Brian
human.
Dable developed and created that offense. Like that's
Exactly.
his offense. So
Exactly.
obviously he knows how to shut it down, and they still lost the game because Tyrod Taylor called a run play at the end of the half was why they lost the game, but they still lost the game. So
Tyrod called it.
so what
He
the what
checked
the
into
yep
it. He had the ability to check, and
into a run, and he did
but to
instead
me,
of throwing a
if
pass.
you don't want him to be able to check, don't give him the ability to.
He's the veteran guy. You're supposed to be able to trust that he knows that if you
Now-
run this and you don't get it, that the game is the half is over. It's worth it going for the pass just because you can throw it away and we can kick the field goal. That's the only reason that you're even getting this opportunity.
It should be noted that Tyrod does have some of the best QB swag in the league.
Oh, always has.
Yeah.
On
He looks
Madden,
clean.
create a quarterback. If you just create Tyrod Taylor, that's fine. That's all you got to do.
Legit.
Well, it's another episode in the books. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure to go to TulsiRoseTea.com for all your tea needs. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit us up on the socials.
500 subscribers. Share it out there.
Yes, sir.
We're serious about it.
Somebody wants a jersey. I can give that to you. Help me help you. Me help you.
Well,
I'm the winner.
thanks for joining us again, and until Friday at 8:30 Eastern Time, and again on Sunday we're going to do a live start sit at 12 o'clock Eastern until we get tired of talking. So we'll see you guys